Democrats divided over a resolution condemning anti-Semitism, seen as a rebuke of Democratic Congresswoman ILHAN Omar's controversial comments. Now, a meeting of House Democrats today behind closed doors reportedly turning contentious as new members confronted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other leaders, accusing them of rushing the resolution. So what does former Democratic vice presidential nominee Joe Lieberman think of all this? He joins us now. Sir, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Charles. Good to be here.
This is really worrisome because you've got some upstarts who have just come to Congress with chips on their shoulders, and it's all playing out in the public, and it's very ugly. What's your thoughts about all of this?
First thing is that words matter, and when people say words that are biased, bigoted, and hurtful to another group of people, another group of Americans, they have to be condemned quickly, or else it takes hold. And that I'm not only thinking about anti-Semitism, I'm thinking about racism, I'm thinking about any kind of bigotry toward any religious group or any other group. So I think this is a time of testing for the House of Representatives, and if I may, it's really a moral test about how clearly they will speak out, in this case, against what Congresswoman Omar said, which was clearly anti-Semitic.
And she's only been there a short period, and this is not the first time this issue has come up.
That's true.
So Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, the leadership, it feels like every day that this is delayed, the more they tweak this, the more it evolves into somehow, in my mind, to water down or mitigate the damage that was done by this particular Congresswoman. I think the more they fail your moral test.
Well, that's why I think it's really important for the House to act, and to act directly. I mean, it sounds like the resolution that they're drafting now, which was originally against anti-Semitism, although clearly it was engendered by what Congresswoman Omar had said, is being broadened to be also a statement against anti-Muslim bias. Of course, we should make that statement, but I think the House could do better. And if it was up to me, I'd say, okay, put out a foundational resolution condemning all forms of bigotry, and particularly saying that if members of the House of Representatives, elected members of Congress, get involved in that kind of bigotry, they're going to be specifically condemned by their colleagues who won't tolerate it, and then to pass another resolution if they want, specifically condemning, criticizing Congresswoman Omar for her anti-Semitic comments. That's the best way to deter the next member of Congress of either party that says something that's racist or homophobic or anti any religious group.
It feels like in Washington, D.C., that, to borrow a boxing term, the Marquis de Queensberry rules, no hitting behind the head. There's certain rules, certain laws of civility, even in a brutal sport like that they vanished a long time ago. But to watch them vanish within a political party where you have the upstarts who are very vocal about their feelings, and they take to social media, but nothing seems to be slowing them down, and their resolve only, in fact, seems to grow greater and greater when there's pushback against them.
Right. So these statements that I take to be bigoted are earlier ones made. Congressman King, I know, said something that I thought was racist. Those things are not acceptable.
He was stripped of some committee seats, right?
Yeah. So something specifically was done toward him, and instantly. Congresswoman Omar's statements clearly do not represent the thinking of most anybody else in office in the Democratic Party. But if they start to mumble in response to her specific and clear anti-Semitic statement, then the party itself is going to be held more broadly accountable for having similar feelings, which I know they don't. So again, I say this is a moment of testing, moral testing. Speak clearly about it. Make clear to the Congresswoman that she went over the line. It's unacceptable. And you make clear to the next person who's thinking about expressing some other kind of bigotry that it's not going to be tolerated.
Yeah, I mean, just moments ago, Debbie Wasserman Schultz said it's anti-Semitic tropes. Again, it just doesn't, they're not hitting back hard enough. But I do want to ask you about the Democratic Party in the upcoming 2020 election. Again, it feels like there's a sort of social justice movement, a sort of identity politics that's bubbling up, and it's going to probably play a major role and who's going to be the nominee for the party. You've got a big pushback against some of the establishment folks, and it could get ugly. I mean, where do you see this going right now?
Right. So in American politics, our two great parties say what they're about most clearly during the presidential nominating process, and that's what's happening now.
Really? Because the narrative, Senator, is that they go too far to get the grassroots, and then they find a way back to the middle to win a general election.
So, but the door is open to in either party for every registered Republican or Democrat to come out and vote in the primaries. Too often, it is that small so-called core constituency that has disproportionate influence. So you asked me about the Democratic Party. This is going to be a contest for the identity of the party once again. Look, I hope the party remains a center-left party, which it's been at its most successful. If it goes over and becomes a far-left party, I don't think it's going to be able to elect a president in 2020.
How do they avoid it? In other words, who's going to be the leader that either tells the far left, which is a juggernaut, has all the momentum, that at the very least wait? Let's not try to have a complete coup right now as we try to win this next election. Who's the person that can do this? Because we can see Nancy Pelosi's having a real tough time dealing with these new.
I want to start with Speaker Pelosi, because what's interesting to point out, and I was involved in trying to help some of the candidates, is that the Democrats took back the House not because of the more left candidates, but because of the centrist candidates who won in swing districts. So that's what's got to happen in the presidential primary.
Senator, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Got to be honest, not many of us in the press are looking forward to the 2020 Democratic primary. Just hours ago, it felt like it was going to be an exhausting, miserable affair. The current field is a mixture of fossils, extremists, and power-hungry cynics willing to say anything and hurt anybody to get a hold on the White House. But things have changed. A new candidate has entered the race, a man untethered from the old ways, possibly even from the conventional restrictions of physics, time and space. More a spiritual force than a temporal leader, more a poet than a politician. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of our redemption, Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke, the social media phenom.
Despite his loss to Ted Cruz, the rock and roll loving 46-year-old caught the nation's attention. His offbeat social media posts appealing to a younger generation, even taking to skateboarding at Whataburger. His Senate candidacy winning the endorsement of celebrities like Beyonce.
Beto loves rock and roll, says GMA. He's not like everyone else. He doesn't do stuffy speeches or policy programs. He's not going to bore you with entitlement projections or some scary stuff about the Korean Peninsula. Beto's got a skateboard and wears Nirvana T-shirts. His vision for this country is 1995. That was the year he was living way uptown in this walk-up and working as a manny and knew this dude on West 112th Street with some of the stickiest bud in Manhattan. Indica. A little heavy, but sweet. It was a good time. Beto wants to bring us back to that time, and the press is totally on board.
I saw him for the first time just a month ago when he sat down with Oprah, and me and the rest of the people in the audience thought, wow, this guy has this dynamic, positive energy.
Yeah, he has that raw talent. He is very kind of Obama-esque indeed. The women voted for him in the suburbs of Houston who hadn't voted Democrat before because they had a kind of Beto crush going on.
You know, he's wholesome and he's earnest.
He's got that magic dust. Of course his son is named Ulysses. I love that that's his son's name.
He has that gleam in his eye. Somebody, Evan Smith at the Texas Tribune said seeing him is like, it's like a Jesus Christ superstar seeing this guy in front of people. He's got that celebrity aura about him. And in that moment, he was owning that.
You heard it. Beto's got that magic dust. Oh, yeah, he does, at least an 8-ball, though the guy on 112th Street has more if you need it. Beto's got great hair, too. Beat that combo. Actual voting doesn't begin for months, but Beto is already America's spiritual president. And by the way, that's a much cleaner way to run for office. Real elections, the ones with voters, sometimes end like this.
So we have quite a bit of big news to report. We can call now that the Texas race will go to Ted Cruz, the incumbent Republican.
That Ted Cruz win over Beto O'Rourke, significant.
Well, that election was a bummer. So Beto split soon after on a solo road trip. It was a whole me and you and a dog named Boo kind of thing. The sort of trip that Kerouac or Steinbeck would have taken. Just the hum of the engine and the black ribbon of the open road. A time to feed the soul. Also a time to stage a series of publicity shots for Snapchat and Instagram while simultaneously blogging the whole thing. Timeless stuff. An all-American redemption story. Beto came back a better man. He understood the running for president thing was not for him.
Is there a scenario where you run for president in 2020 or beyond?
No.
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 Unequivocally, you will never run for president.
No punto. No period.
No punto, baby. Down on the border where the people are authentic and speak various languages at once. That means, yes, I am running for president just as soon as I can hire a staff of consultants and line up some billionaires to fund it. But for now, I will lie about my plans. And that's exactly what Beto did. And so here we are in the age of Beto. What's the plan, man? What are we doing? What's next? Well, what's next, Beto says, is understanding that the things that we think of as terrifying threats to the country are actually perfectly cool. Like more than 20 million people using fake identities to live illegally inside the United States. That's not a problem. That's the best, man.
All of us, wherever you live, can acknowledge that if immigration is a problem, it's the best possible problem for this country to have.
Yeah, it's the best problem. Hard to think of a better problem. Illegal immigration is such a cool problem to have. We ought to have more. Let's knock down the border walls, dude.
If you could, would you take the wall down now? Here.
Yes.
Like you have a wall.
Absolutely.
Knock it down.
I'd take the wall down.
And do you think the city, you think if there's a referendum here in this city, that would pass?
I do.
Yeah, it's fine. But that's not to say Beto doesn't see problems on the horizon. He does. And when he does, his dough-brown eyes cloud a little. And he stares off into the distance to consider a holistic solution. Just like James Dean would have done if he had lived to be Beto's age and could skateboard. Beto says global warming is a major bummer. Global warming could make us go extinct, like the dinosaurs in the museums, man. Dead forever.
Some will criticize the Green New Deal for being too bold or being unmanageable. But I tell you what, I haven't seen anything better that addresses this singular crisis that we face, a crisis that could, at its worst, lead to extinction.
Extinction. That's what Beto's fighting against. What else is he for? That's a fair question, but honestly, it's not really clear. We checked his campaign website. There's a picture there that says Beto for America in English. The one in Spanish says Beto for all. We couldn't find any actual policies, even about fighting extinction. We did find a sweet Beto tote bag, just $30, and you don't even have to pledge to NPR to get it, though you probably already have. You ought to get one. It's awesome.